everybody. Welcome into the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook that was born in Vegas. I'm Katie Mox, and if you've been watching us for the last week or so, we've been breaking down different divisions in the NFL and certainly conferences in college. And today, it's all about the SEC. We're going to start with talking about some season-long win totals. Plenty to unpack this year. So, of course, we got to welcome in the experts, Chip Patterson from the Cover 3 Pod, and our guy, Tom Casale. So good to see the two of you. And I got to say, I have been watching the Netflix series Any Given Saturday, all about the SEC. So I feel uniquely prepared to talk to you guys about this one. So let's start with win totals. Let's start with the number one with the coaches poll and Texas 9.5. Longhorns, of course, riding back-to-back playoff runs and enter this one with a really high win total of 9.5. You got Arch Manning taken over under center, I should say, a national title caliber roster. So Chip, I'll start with you on this one. 9.5 with Arch at the helm. You like it, over or under?
I like this over. This is the most talented roster in the country for my money. Steve Sarkisian has just done such a great job of being able to build this up in a sustainable way. And what I mean by that is he started when he arrived, knowing that they were going to go to the SEC. He built up the lines of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line. Then he started to add in the high-quality skill positions. And, of course, the real gem is number 16. It is Arch Manning, who has, I know this sounds crazy, spent 30 months on campus in Austin already grooming for this spot. I think Arch is going to have a tremendous year. He gives that offense another dimension that Quinn Ewers did not. And the other piece of this, when it comes to the win total, if you look at the Texas schedule, there are so many games that are just not going to be interesting. Like, there ain't even a threat of them getting upset. You see, like, San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston, your Mississippi State, your Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Kentucky. Like, there are these pivot points when you're dealing with 9.5. Ohio State, Oklahoma, Georgia, yes. But, Tom, I mean, there's not even a concern of a slip up along the way. Texas has one of the easiest schedules in the SEC from the conference side, and outside of Ohio State, it's all manageable. I am over 9.5.
I can't believe you're not afraid of the San Jose State Spartans as a San Jose girl myself. But yeah, Arch Manning might have a field day there. Tom, are you in agreement with this one? And some good news, too, is Archie Manning said that Arch is going to stay with the Texans through 2026 as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Chip said. Texas is my number one rated team in my power rankings entering the season. And, listen, everybody uses the transfer portal, but some coaches like Dan Lanning in Oregon and Sark at Texas, they're really doing it well. They're not just going out and signing a bunch of players. They're targeting areas they need to improve and getting impact players in there. You add that to elite level recruiting. And as Chip said, I think Texas has surpassed Georgia as the top two deep roster in the country. And then you look at Arch Manning. Listen, Quinn Ewers was a fine college quarterback. I just think in big games, he was a little limited. Now you have Arch adding that element as a runner. I think the offense is going to be more explosive. And Chip mentioned the schedule. You never want to say an SEC schedule is easy, I guess, but this is as favorable as it gets, right? Like, I do think they beat Ohio State in the opener. But if they split with Ohio State and Georgia, they lost to Georgia twice last year, both games as favorites. But if they split those games, I think they get over this win total.
I always giggle when we talk about anyone in the Manning family being versatile on the ground game as well and a good runner. But let's go between the hedges here, fellas. Georgia's win total also set to 9.5. The over is juiced to up near minus 190. So expectations really, really high in Athens this year. You got Gunnar Stockton stepping in as the new quarterback, leading a roster that is, fellas, just once again extremely stacked, especially on defense. But that week 3 trip to Tennessee already being circled as a make or break moment. So, Chip, what say you on their win total?
I'm going to go over, but I'm not rushing to bet it at this price. There's a fascinating battle going on all across the depth chart between highly rated young players that Kirby Smart and this Georgia staff have signed and older players that maybe quite haven't lived up to the potential when they were 4-star and 5-star recruits themselves. So it's going to start at Tennessee. It's going to continue on into the regular season. And yes, of course, with that big game against Ole Miss, big game against Texas, are the young pups for the Bulls Bulldogs going to be fully unleashed, or are we going to see the veteran presence take over? Trying to manage that and work in some new transfer portal pieces like wide receiver Zach Branch coming over from USC. There's just so many roster questions. Now, all the answers are talented, Katie, but there are still questions that have me not rushing to bet a over 9.5, lay in -190. My official projection is 10-2. That has me over 9.5. But I do want to say that until I see this team out on the field, I'm not necessarily going to be backing them, even with some of those tough road trips from last year now becoming favorable home games in Sanford Stadium.
All right. So I like what you're saying there. You're not going to lay this -190 on the over. You do think this is a double-digit win team. Tom, do you agree? Do you think it's a safe bet that the Bulldogs reach double digits even in this SEC gauntlet?
Yeah, listen, I'd like to disagree with Chip, but I'm right there with him. I got 10-2. I'd go over 9.5. If it was 10.5, I'd go under. I think they're a really good team, and we know about the quarterback, but I'll tell you where Georgia needs to really improve from the last 2 seasons. And where's the rush defense gone? Remember when you wouldn't even think about running the ball against Georgia? 2019 to 2022, when they had those dominant teams, 80 yards per game rush they allowed on the ground. Last 2 years, 114 and 130. Last year, 7 teams rushed for over 140 yards against Georgia. This defense has to get back to that dominating unit it was when they were winning championships. If that happens, I think Gunnar Stockton will be good enough. But I agree with Chip. 10-2 feels right for the Bulldogs.
Tom, I'll tell you where the rush defense went. They all play for the Philadelphia Eagles now, but let's turn our attention to Tuscaloosa. Alabama's win total also set to 9.5. A little bit of a theme here with the SEC, but unlike in years past, there's some real uncertainty here still in this post-Saban era. Tide face a brutal schedule, road games at Florida State, Georgia, South Carolina, and Auburn, and then they host Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma. So, Tom, are you buying into Bama to reload and reach 10 wins, or is 9.5 a fair cap for year 2 in the DeBoer era? Excuse me.
Yeah, Alabama overall is the toughest team for me to really get my hands around entering the season, because I know Chip likes them and everything he's going to say is correct. I mean, they have talent. And you got to remember, not only was DeBoer replacing Nick Saban, 30 players left the program last year. Now you get a whole offseason with your guys. I just wonder if he has his guy yet at quarterback. It's the only thing that's keeping me from buying this Alabama team. They got Keelan Russell, the 5-star recruit, waiting in the wings. I don't think he's going to start this year. So does Ty Simpson get the job done? DeBoer's been a great quarterback coach throughout his career, so maybe he has enough. But my gut tells me Alabama might be 1 year away from being a real strong national title contender, so I will lean under here.
All right, Chip, you and Tom have been pretty much on the same page this whole time, but this is where you differ. Talk to me about why you think that the Crimson Tide can get over this 9.5 hump.
Yeah, Katie, this is probably my big bet. I mean, the big bet being something that I've found myself skewing away from where Tom and a lot of other smart people are. I think that Alabama is going to have a tremendous bounce back season. First of all, I think their defense is going to be one of the best in the SEC, where Georgia has a lot of confusion about whether you're going veterans or talented young players. Alabama's defense is talented and old and big. I love all of that because big bodies still matter in college football. When you've got Tim Keenum, when you've got LT Overton, Deontay Lawson at the linebacker position, their weakness last year was the secondary, but that is a group that I think has really grown up and has gotten better from getting thrown into the fire last year. Offensively, being concerned about Ty Simpson is totally fair. He lost a quarterback battle to Jalen Milroe 2 years in a row, but it is the return of Ryan Grubb, who was the offensive coordinator for Kalen DeBoer at Washington. And in the NFL last year, hearing from a former Washington player who's actually now at North Carolina, who had to play defense against that passing attack, he said Grubb schemes him up as good as anyone. I think Ty Simpson will be set up for success with Ryan Grubb in Tuscaloosa. The offensive line is loaded. I just think that when you're built the right way, which in my book is at the line of scrimmage, you're going to be able to be road warriors, which is what Alabama needs to be against this schedule. I am over 9.5.
Okay, the first time they disagreed. We'll see if there is more of that coming up. Chip, Tom, appreciate you. We do got to take a quick break here, but those were the top dogs in the SEC. Now, how should you wager on the bottom feeders? Chip and Tom sticking around. We're breaking down win totals for the teams trying to claw their way out of the basement next. Welcome back to the Early Edge. Still here with our guys Chip and Tom breaking down the SEC. Now we're going to move to the bottom feeders here. Let's talk Mississippi State. Win total 3.5, overjuiced to -165. They got road trips to Georgia and Alabama. It looks like a full rebuild year here. Chip, where's the value, over or under?
Katie, smart people say you should bet everything to the middle, right? Unders on the teams at the top and overs at the team at the bottom. And that's not how I see the SEC at all. So I might be the mark here, but I'll tell you that I am Marky Mark and I am funky about Mississippi State under, because this is a team that simply does not have the roster to be able to compete. And they even have games in non-conference play that are going to be really difficult to get those kind of wins. I think that you saw last year that it was so drastic, the talent difference, that teams played Mississippi State differently. Up-tempo teams would play at a lower tempo. And so if you wanted to bet some Mississippi State spreads or tool around with the totals, maybe we can do that. But frankly, I'm not even sure if games like Southern Miss and NIU should be surefire 100% wins. I think that they go 0-8 in SEC play. I've got them under 3.5.
All right, Tom, Chip getting funky with his under 3.5. Do you think that the Bulldogs can surprise and get 4 wins?
Well, I don't know if I'm one of those smart people. I wanted to I wanted to like this Mississippi State team. I really did. I wanted to go over the 3.5, but I'm with Chip. I just don't see it. You look at their 3 non-conference games: Southern Miss, Alcorn State, Northern Illinois. I mean, maybe that's 3-0. I don't even know if that's a guarantee. But if that's 2-1, and they have to win 2 games in the SEC, I just don't see it. It's been it's a tough stretch right now. Mike Leach passed away, and they're kind of in a rebuild. I just think they're at least another year away from competing. Like Chip said, the roster isn't SEC ready, and if they lose the opener to Southern Miss, it's going to be a long, long season.
All right, so the kids are going to have to get all the pregame partying out of the way, because the games are going to be slightly disappointing for them. Next up, Kentucky Wildcats sitting at 4.5 wins. The number priced almost evenly here, fellas. They got a few winnable games in the SEC on the schedule, but it really feels like this team could go either way. Tom, where are you taking us?
Yeah, you said a few winnable games with the emphasis on few. Look at this schedule. How about Ole Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, Louisville. Oh, by the way, they have 50 new players there. I don't think that's a winning formula in the SEC. Maybe in the Sun Belt, you can retool your roster with 50 new players, but playing that kind of schedule, Mark Stoops is the winningest coach in Kentucky history. He's on the hot seat. I think the bottom might fall out this year. I'm going under 4.5. That's one of my favorite SEC win totals.
Okay, it's one of Tom's favorites. Chip, do you trust Kentucky to hit 5 and get bowl eligible, or is this under the sharper play?
Yeah, no, I do not trust. There is zero trust right there. We've been playing some games on the Cover 3 podcast. What school would take this quarterback? Like, if a quarterback walked out the door, what school would he go start for? We continue to say Kentucky. I guess it's Zach Calzada. I guess. They lose Berrien Brown, their best offensive weapon. He's gone to the transfer portal. They lose, as Tom mentioned, tons of other talent that have to be replaced along the way. They were a 4-win team last year because Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. I don't know if Kentucky beat Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. I don't see the Rebels doing that once again. It was almost as though they lucked their way into 4 after all the roster turnover. I just don't see them being able to get to that again. This might be a 3-9 team, so certainly under 4.5.
All right, so far our analysts are not very high on some of the bottom feeders in the SEC. Let's move on to Arkansas, listed at 5.5 wins, a little bit higher than the last 2. Under, of course, heavily favored here. They've got a very road-heavy schedule and some defensive concerns. Marcus seems pretty skeptical that they could get to 6. Chip, are you skeptical as well?
I am. And you mentioned that schedule. That's just so tough for a coach on the hot seat. And Sam Pittman is on the hot seat, forever one of the great offensive line coaches in college football. He's got decades upon decades of experience. And maybe this isn't a firing. Maybe this is a mutual parting of ways. Maybe this is a retirement. But I just see Arkansas, if they aren't able to pull a big upset early in the season against one of those, high profile opponents that they're going to get there in Fayetteville, I could see things starting to slide just a little bit, where by the end of the year, you're questioning motivation. You're questioning whether some of these players are looking for the transfer portal, because at 5.5, you are betting that Arkansas wants to get to a bowl game and will be scraping and clawing for the wins that they need to get there. I'm just not so sure, because Memphis, Notre Dame, I mean, those are spots where all of a sudden you're looking at a 4 or 5 game losing streak before you even get to the end of October. I'm not real bullish on that. I think we might be seeing the end of the Sam Pittman era one way or another. And in that case, if that's what my crystal ball says, I'm definitely going to go under.
All right, so we heard what the crystal ball of the Chip Patterson era thinks on this one. Do you think the Hogs, though, can play spoiler and cash this over, Tom? Or are you in lockstep with Chip?
Listen, I do think Arkansas will be competitive this year. I think they have some talent, but Chip mentioned it's the schedule. Road games at Texas, Tennessee, and LSU, and Sam Pittman might be on the hot seat, but his AD didn't do him any favors. How about we add a game against Notre Dame? We're already playing in the SEC. Let's bring in Notre Dame as an extra game. I mean, that's just a really, really tough schedule for a team that's, in the middle of the SEC pack. And I think Chip is right. If things go badly early, how does this team react? I think 5 wins is the ceiling here. I do think there's a little talent here, but I don't think they get to 6.
All right, in lockstep with that one. Let's get to Florida really quickly here. Depending on the book, you can find the Gators at different places, but we're seeing it at 7.5 here at near even odds between the new coach, quarterback uncertainty. It really feels like a toss up here. Chip, is there any edge here at all? Are you staying away from the Gators win total altogether? Or are you like an over and under?
Injury issues would have me staying away to bet it. DJ Lagway, the drop off from him to the backups is absolutely massive. We're already seeing some offensive line injuries, some injuries along the wide receiver positions. But at the same time, if everybody is healthy, Florida has one of the 15 most talented rosters in the entire country. The problem is they've got one of the toughest schedules in the entire country, not just the SEC. So are you going to get the injury luck and also be able to win some of the coin flips along the way? You mentioned how it's been at 6.5 or 7.5. When I did 6.5 early in the offseason, I was an over. At 7.5, you give me, I will take the under. And in that case, Katie, if we really want to take a flyer, maybe we just go exacta. Exactly.
Ooh.
7 wins for a little plus money for the Florida Gators. It's nice that you do get Tennessee and Florida State at home at the end of the season. You hope that Billy Napier is in a position where he's going to be able to get this team to rally. Because I will say this about Napier. He has done a good job of keeping players from the transfer portal. Normally, when a coach is going into a hot seat season, we will see the signs of it by players hitting the portal. Napier has kept this group bought in. They've got NFL talent on the offensive line and the defensive line. If they can just stay healthy, they're going to be competitive in every single game, but I don't trust them to win 8 of those competitive games.
All right, Chip coming in with an exacta at some nice plus money. And Tom, we were talking about it in the pre-show about this Netflix series, and you don't think that Napier is the coach in Florida, so I would assume you're going under as well.
I am going under. I'm with Chip. I like the roster. I don't like the schedule, and I don't know if Napier's the guy. I always get worried about these guys who are going to get fired. Then something happened. There's a guy named Mike DeBose who coached Alabama years ago. He was gone. He beats Auburn. They give him a new contract extension. They got to fire him anyway because he wasn't the guy. You either have the guy or you don't. I think Napier is a really good recruiter. I don't know how good of a coach he is. He reminds me a little bit of Coach O over at LSU. You say, well, Coach O won a national championship. Well, when Napier gets Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, give me a call. I just feel like that's the kind of coach he is. He's good enough to recruit where he can be competitive. But with this schedule, which I rate as the toughest schedule in college football for the second straight season for Florida, I don't think they get there. I think I'm going under. I'm with Chip. 7-8 win teams feels like for me with the Gators.
Yeah, Coach O won the national championship, and then he found himself out of a job just a couple years later. Something the two of you that will never happen here on the Early Edge. Appreciate you, Chip and Tom. Stick with us. We do have to take a quick break here, but when we return, Mackenzie Brooks is going to be crashing the party and joining our guys Chip and Tom for a full dive into SEC futures, who's making the title game, and who will we crown the SEC champ. That's coming up next. Welcome back to the Early Edge. Katie Mox here, and we are still joined with our guys, Chip Patterson and Tom Casale, but we were joined by the queen of the SEC herself, Mackenzie Brooks from SportsLine, also joining. And Kens, we broke down the win totals for the top dogs, including your dogs, in the SEC and some of those bottom feeders. But now let's look to the future here, guys, right? Let's bet on some futures in the SEC. And first, let's talk about who's going to get to the SEC title game. And Kens, you're new to the program today, so talk to us. What do you like?
Oh, I don't like to say this with Georgia gear behind me, but I'll take the math angle, right? You mean you have all of these teams create 200% when you look at odds makers, right? So it's going to end up being 100% of one team, 100% of the other team. And in our model, Texas and Alabama make up the most of that 200% that will make it to Atlanta. And as far as Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss, they are literally all this close, but it does end up being Alabama just because of the way their schedule shakes out. They only have Georgia. A lot of these teams have to play each other. Georgia has the gauntlet of Ole Miss, of Texas, of Alabama. So a lot of the times it's not really about power rankings to me. It's more just about the schedule you are given that makes you look a lot better to make your way to Atlanta. So Texas is a surefire for me, and then Alabama just slightly edges out the other two.
I mean, UNITY. I mean, good gravy. Like this is where you've got the alignment of both being able to have the bounce back from the disappointment of 9-3, but also be able to have the schedule necessary to be able to get there. Because if Alabama doesn't totally trip over its own 2 feet coming down the stretch, I mean, only able to score 3 points against Oklahoma in November on the road in Norman, Alabama coming off wins against LSU and Missouri, they were in the SEC championship picture just a year ago, but because of the loss, especially in the loss to Michigan in the bowl game, I feel like they've been written off in a way that is not a representative of their chances to be able to get there. I'm with Kens here. I think it's Texas and Alabama in the title game.
Yeah, I'm going to make it 3 for 3 with Texas. I think they're the best team in the country. I'm going to go with Georgia. I think I agree it's going to be close between, I think LSU, Alabama, and Georgia are all right there. I'll say this about the Bulldogs. We talked about them a little earlier. They're not being underappreciated by odds makers, but it feels like they're going just a little bit under the radar. Everyone's talking about Texas and Penn State. Oh, watch out for Florida. Watch out for South Carolina. No one's really mentioning Georgia this year, and I'm wondering if Kirby can use that as some extra motivation. I mentioned in a previous segment, the rush defense has to improve, but if Gunnar Stockton's the real deal at quarterback, give me Texas and Georgia in the championship game.
All right. Oh, Chip.
Yeah, I think it's because for 3 years, they beat everyone who wasn't Nick Saban. And it's like all of a sudden last year, we see them bleed. Not a lot, but bleed just a little bit. And I think that's why you've got a little bit of hesitation, because there could be a return to form where, again, they just beat everybody. But because they were so dominant against everyone else in the country, now you're starting to get a little bit wary. Big season ahead for the Dogs, no doubt.
I will
Okay, so
say
you guys-
I do like when we have the underdog energy. Like, I think that's better. I like that we don't have this bar that Texas and Arch Manning has right now. No one wants to talk about the Bulldogs. It's just how I like it. It's just how we drew it up, Katie.
Honestly, that's how I feel about my 49ers as well. Like, everybody keep doubting, keep that. The pressure's not on. That's exactly where I like my team to be as well. So it seems like you guys are all in agreement, at least with one team that is getting to the SEC title game, and that is Texas. Now, of course, Tom and Mackenzie high on the Bulldogs here. Ken saying she likes not having all that pressure. But Chip, you went differently, and you went Texas with Alabama. So then when we look to who wins this SEC title game, are you going Texas, or is it roll tide roll?
Yeah, I'm going to go Alabama here, and this is just kind of doubling down on the big bet, especially at this price with Texas as the favorite. The Crimson Tide, the real piece of this that I'm looking at is that Ryan Williams is going to remind everybody that he had a superstar freshman season too, and he did it with much worse quarterback play than what Jeremiah Smith did. And so with Jeremy Bernard, with Ryan Williams, with all the different pieces that this Alabama offense has, I'm just really looking for them to be able to go toe to toe. And while we saw 22-19 in overtime, just an absolute rock fight in last year's SEC title game, I think Arch against this Alabama offense would be a little bit more of a shootout. And so give me Kalen DeBoer reminding everybody why he's won at every single level he's been at.
My brain wants to go horns down, but the numbers are just forcing me to go horns up here. Listen, it is Texas's to lose. I feel like especially by that game, by December, you'll probably have the best version of Arch Manning you're going to get. So this team reminds me of like a peak Georgia, the past 3 years where they just reload, reload, reload. You return over 60% of your defensive production, which is the important one. You get over 40% of your offense. And I know it sounds like a low number, but that's, replacing Quinn Ewers with Arch Manning. Twist my arm. I don't think that's that big of a drop off here. So it's hard to root against this team right now. And until they give me a reason to, it's Texas for me.
Yeah, listen, I agree with Mackenzie. My preseason power rankings have Texas 1, Penn State 2. Then there's a little bit of a gap, not a huge one, but a little bit to everybody else. So I think Texas, Penn State are the two top seeds in the college football playoffs. Give me the Longhorns to win the SEC.
Okay, let's move on, guys, now to SEC coach wins conference, coach of the year, excuse me, winning the coach of the year. And Tom, I feel like there's a lot of question marks around LSU and Brian Kelly, one of the greatest coaches of all time, doesn't have a chip yet. And then you got the quarterback coming back. What do you think that Brian Kelly can do? Do you think he's worthy of winning coach of the year?
Yeah, well, when you ever see a show when somebody tries to say I'm sorry and they can't say it? I think the Fonz used to do it in Happy Days, but I was trying to write Brian Kelly and my hand barely did it. As much as I hate to say it, I think this is a really strong LSU team. I think they're a sleeper in the SEC and to win it all and make the college football playoff. So I'm going to regretfully and reluctantly say Brian Kelly, SEC Coach of the Year.
Yeah, Katie, I'm syncing things up here. I'm not going to try to spread myself over the board. We're all in. We are roll, tide, roll. I'm going to say Kalen DeBoer. And ultimately, you think about getting a ballot and knowing that the hardest thing in all of college sports is to be the guy after the guy. And there's no bigger the guy in college football than Nick Saban. If he's able to, in just 2 years, get Alabama back to playing for an SEC championship after losing 30 players off the roster when he took the job, after having to retool this thing and reestablish momentum on the recruiting trail, then I think even with Alabama's resources, the coaching job there is going to be worth an award.
This is gonna start to sync up for me here too. I'm gonna go Mike Elko here, Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is a sleeper. We have them power ranked 13th in the SportsLine model. It's all about the returning production they have. They rank top 10 in returning production. You have a returning quarterback. You have the second year of a head coach. All of those things should make this team successful. And I actually think a 9-win Texas A&M has a shot, other things falling their way, to maybe make the playoff. So that would definitely help the resume of Mike Elko. I think this team is a sleeper in general. Their road schedule is very tough. If you split those tough road games, I think there's a good shot they make the playoff, and then we see Mike Elko win this award.
I love it. Okay, we got to go quickly here. 30 seconds or less. Favorite SEC win total, Ken? You're up first.
I'm going to Auburn, under 7.5. I mean, you're a 5-win team or 6-win team the past 5 years, and now they think they're just going to jump the number 7 and get to 8. I don't think Jackson Arnold is worth 3 wins in the SEC specifically. I think this team improves, but to get to 8 is a little absurd to me.
I'm going to go Kentucky under 4.5, 50 new players, one of the toughest schedules in the country. Not a great recipe in the SEC.
A bunch of sharp unders. Let me just come with a fun over for you, Katie. Let's go Ole Miss over 8.5. They were 9-3 in the regular season a year ago. And while they lose Jackson Dart, I think Austin Simmons is an absolute stud. They are deeper at wide receiver. They lose Trey Harris, but I think they've got more good options. And again, 9-3 with an inexplicable loss to Kentucky. They correct that. This is a 10-2 team. We might have a game and a half of value on the Rebels.
You can always count on Chip to bring the vibes back up before we get out of here for this segment. We'll bid adieu to Chip and Tom. Appreciate your time breaking everything down with us. When we return, some of the biggest betting questions in the SEC still need answers. And Mackenzie Brooks is sticking around, and Emory Hunt is joining to help break that all down next. Welcome back to the Early Edge. We're still here rocking with our SEC girl, Mackenzie Brooks. We are welcoming in the czar of the playbook, the guy that knows it all, Emory Hunt. And you're on a polo kick this week, which I appreciate out of you. Usually you're a three-piece suit kind of guy, but the last couple times I've seen you, you've been rocking the company polo. So, guys, let's get into this. There are plenty of burning questions around the SEC, and who better than you two to break it all down with us? So the first question I have for you is, what team outside of Texas, Georgia, Bama, and LSU quarterbacks do you think might surprise people? Emory, we'll start with you.
Arkansas, Taylor Green, Randall Cunningham reincarnated, Vince Young reincarnated, Colin Kaepernick reincarnated. This dude is awesome. When you watch Taylor Green play last year, it was just amazing at how fluid he was as a runner, as a passer with the deep ball. And you factor in the fact that he's working with Bobby Petrino in his second season within this offense. Bobby Petrino has an impeccable track record when working with quarterbacks. And he didn't get to work with Michael Vick because Vick had went to jail. So that's why we didn't see that combination. But we saw what that would have looked like when he got the chance to work with Lamar Jackson, which is why Lamar Jackson hit the ground running both figuratively and literally as an NFL player. Taylor Green is the best NFL quarterback prospect in the SEC, and Arkansas will be a direct beneficiary of that this season.
All right, thank you for that, Emory. And I meant to say squad, but the S was gone from that, so it was quad, so I went to quarterback. So, Kenz, you don't have to take it quarterback, but talk to me.
I mean, either way, I like the quarterback on this team going to the Aggies, Texas A&M. I mean, in college football specifically, I can't emphasize enough the returning production factor and how that can make you so successful if you had the right potential here. And Marcel Reed, I think, is the right choice. You have a returning quarterback. You have the second year of your head coach. You rank top 10 in returning production overall, 70% plus on both offense and defense. Those are all just such key metrics to have a successful base. And their road schedule is tough. Their schedule is tough in general, but this is the type of team where if they are a 9-win team and other things fall their way this season, 9 wins from the SEC could potentially get you in the playoffs. So I call them a playoff sleeper. I just think they have all the right cards right now to have a successful year.
Okay, I love that. We heard Chip is pretty much all over Alabama this year, right? He likes them to get to the title game. He likes them to win the title game. And he likes DeBoer to get the coach of the year. They're right now plus 400 to win the SEC championship. So, Emory, is there a team, or do you think that they're a team that will be dominant in DeBoer's second year?
I think they'll be good, but dominant is too far of a stretch for me because we don't know who's going to play quarterback or how well Ty Simpson will play at quarterback, right? So when you look at everyone else around the SEC, you have Arch Manning. We know what that looks like at Texas. This is his third year in that system. We expect him to have success. You look at what I just spoke eloquently on about Taylor Green. We expect him to have a fantastic season. They could be a fly in the ointment. You have America's quarterback in Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. So in order to be dominant, you have to be better than who we consider the elite quarterbacks. DJ Lagway, if he's healthy, is Ty Simpson better than him? But Alabama right now, off-season, summertime, plus 400, good value.
Okay, so Emory's saying good value, and that seems to be in line with what Tom Casale was saying as well. Good team, question marks, with the quarterback. How do you feel about this, Kenz?
I mean, I think the numbers are right. Ideally, I'd have like a plus 500 here. I mean, there's so much parity in this conference and in the Big Ten too this season that it's hard for me to say that anybody's going to be dominant. I know Emory said at least we know what Arch Manning looks like, but like not that much, right? We really don't know too much about Gunnar Stockton either, and we really don't know too much about the freshman from Ole Miss and all of these things. So it's anyone's chance to be dominant this year. And I think they do have the weapons to do it. I think they will probably have one of the best defenses in the SEC, which I think can get them to the title game here in the SEC Conference Championship. So dominant's a tough word for anyone this year specifically, but I do think they have the potential.
All right, so we just heard Emory talk about Diego Pavia as America's quarterback. I also learned about the Pavia Mafia, that he's got his own security team with his brothers. Vanderbilt, of course, such a fun story last year. It's been fun to watch it play out on that Netflix series as well. So, Kens, do you think that they can knock a couple good teams off this season?
It's tough, Katie. And I was a Vanderbilt believer early in week 2. Like I was all in it. Their win total was 2.5. And now it's 5.5. So I think we might have inflated this team a little too much. They literally have like the hardest schedule. I mean, they go to Alabama, they go to Texas, they go to South Carolina. Like, no matter how good Diego Pavia is and all of these things, it's really, really hard to have the same expectations of what we saw them have last year. So hats off to them for the season they had, but this strength of schedule is going to be very, very tough.
It is going to be very, very tough, but you said it, Emory, America's quarterback. What do you think they're going to do this year?
They have a chance. I mean, we saw them beat Alabama last year. The last time Vandy beat Bama, TVs wasn't in color yet. Hip hop didn't exist. So we've seen them do the unthinkable, right? So why wouldn't they be able to do it? And the fact that they did it last year is now that they come into the season believing that they can win. They have the best tight end in the country in Eli Stowers, who I think could be the number 1 tight end in the NFL draft in 2026. So they have talent. Now they also have the belief that they can go out there and win. It went from we hope we could win to we think we could win to now this season they expect they can win. So with that type of mindset, it gives them a chance in any game this season.
Yeah, our own Damian Harris was pretty upset last year when Vanderbilt was able to beat Alabama for, as you said, the first time since hip hop was created, which is hilarious. Emory Hunt and Mackenzie Brooks, appreciate you. If you guys want more plays and more insights and direct access to the SportsLine experts, go ahead and join the SportsLine Discord. It's the best place to connect with our cappers in real time and get instant alerts on picks and be a part of the sharp and active betting community. Go ahead and join that Discord today. And up next, we're breaking down the SEC quarterbacks. Is Arch Manning the real deal in Austin? And can Gunnar Stockton live up to the hype in Athens? Mackenzie and Emory are sticking around with those answers and more next. Welcome back. Before we get out of here, we got to break down the quarterbacks in the SEC with the 2 of the best from SportsLine, Emory Hunt and Mackenzie Brooks. Let's start in Austin, you guys. Arch Manning takes over as a starting quarterback for a Texas team that has national title expectations right out the gate. He's got the name, he's got the weapons, and a path to the playoff. But will he actually live up to the hype in year 1 as QB1? Emory, what you got?
Yes, rarely. This is old school college football where you see a guy that has been in the system for more than 6 weeks, like how these new college age quarterbacks are, right? This guy has been in the system for three full years, so he understands what goes on. Sarkisian will make this thing quarterback friendly for him. He has the athleticism to situate everything else around the offense, so he should step right in and play really well. So I do think he'll star, and it's just going to be fun to watch this thing play out all season long because he should be on the back end of the season in contention for the Heisman Trophy.
And how about you, Kens? Is Arch the real deal, or are we jumping the gun here?
Listen, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Heisman because we've been starting to run those numbers, and typically you want to hit like 30 passing touchdowns, maybe 40 touchdowns total, which we do have him on pace for, and we have Texas ranked as the best team in the country. So obviously I think highly of Arch Manning. My only devil's advocate, situation here is like, well, why didn't he start last year over Quinn Ewers? Like, why was it a battle? Quinn Ewers was 7th round pick in the NFL draft. And if you're not as good as a 7th round pick in the NFL draft, can we call you one of the greatest quarterbacks ever? We haven't even seen you play yet. So that's my only hesitation here, that he wasn't, leaps and bounds beating Ewers out of that spot. But I do think, obviously, the ceiling is so high for him. And like Emory said, I love that he's been in the system.
Yeah, I feel like the crowd loves him too. Even when yours was playing, they were chanting Manning's name in the stands there. Let's head over to Athens. Looks like Gunnar Stockton is set to take the reins in Georgia, and he inherits a loaded roster here. But the expectations, as always, can sky high here, and this will be his first real shot at leading the Dog. So, what are your expectations for Gunnar Stockton in 2025?
I'm going to be honest, Katie. Like, I don't know. I really, this is one of those
Mm.
quarterbacks where I'm like, we saw him play in limited action. He ran for negative yards, so that's not super awesome. But he actually was pretty accurate in what we saw, like 70% completion percentage and the 64 pass attempts, but only one touchdown. So I think he will be expected to use his legs. I think he should use his legs. Obviously, a lot of a quarterback playing well is having great wide receivers. We see two transfers coming in. So there's a lot of unknowns in Athens in general. I think having your tight ends back is going to be awesome for this offense. But again, that's not exactly this quarterback heavy stat. So it's going to be a lot of unknown. I like the idea that he's going to use his legs, though.
Okay, so cautiously optimistic from our Georgia Bulldog. And Emory, coming to you on this one, do you think that Stockton can keep Georgia in that SEC title conversation?
Absolutely, man. Listen, you hand Diego Pavia a bowl of grits, he's Gunnar Stockton. You hand Gunnar Stockton some hot chicken, he's Diego Pavia, right? They're the same dude. And the reason why I say that is because I like how Gunnar Stockton is a gamer. He came in that game against Texas and did what he had to do. He played his 111th and helped those guys knock off Texas in that SEC title game. He was in an adverse situation against Notre Dame and had those guys caught some of those passes, we may be talking about a different outcome as opposed to what we saw. So I like the fact that he's always ready to play. And that's something that can take you far. We just made the case for Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. I think Gunnar Stockton, because of his mentality and how he plays, gives Georgia a chance.
Okay, let's move over to Gainesville now. DJ Lagway, the future of Florida football, and he brings some serious upside and some dual threat ability, but questions around the rest of the roster and a really tough schedule here. Emory, how much can we really expect from Lagway this year?
This team can be playoff worthy, and this is an Empire State building large if he's healthy. Because when he's out there, he's good. And we saw them play really well against good teams last year when he was a starting quarterback. So it's just about him being healthy, because if he's going to be healthy, then my take after the national championship game at 2:30 in the morning in CBS Sports HQ's Stanford Studios will hold true that this team will make it to the postseason. So he has to stay healthy for my take to live on. But I do think because he's so talented and because Chip talked about it earlier in the show, how good this roster is, it all hinges on Lagway being out there because he's a superstar waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where, like you said, you saw it. He could go 6-0 if he just starts and finishes the game. And he's one of those players now. It's like the Joe Burrow of college football, where injury is just a part of his name, and it's a part of our evaluation of him, and it's a part of the futures that we make on their team, which is such a shame to say. I will say, outside this conversation, I think DJ Lagway and John Mateer are two guys with their coaches paired with them that could really shake up the SEC. And both coaches being on the hot seat, these quarterbacks have a lot of pressure on them as well to perform for them. So in Gainesville here, I think it's going to be a lot of pressure. And I also think in Oklahoma, you're going to see a very similar situation. Both quarterbacks that could make just big splashes for this entire conference.
I spoke poetically about Taylor Green, right? And him being a quarterback of the year in the SEC. I truly believe people are just glossing over the fact that this 6'5", 225-pound, super athletic quarterback that flashed last year while he was hurt, that's a part that people don't bring up, that he's not going to have the type of season that you expect the top quarterback in the SEC to have. So this potentially could be the conference of quarterbacks this season when you think about all the guys we listed throughout the show. But Taylor Green is going to rocket ship into the stratosphere with how he's going to play in the second season in the system of Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to my guy, John Mateer here. Like, I think he brings over his offensive coordinator, and we've seen that recipe do well before. You saw it with Cam Ward. You even saw it with Bailey Zappi back in the day. So I think having that with you, that like solidified success and partnership coming in with you, is going to be such a large part of the success for this team. If Oklahoma can hit their win total, which I think they can, which is exceeding expectations, I think he should be able to get around the passing touchdown threshold to even put him in the Heisman race. But I think maybe if he falls short of the Heisman race, I think he will be in the conversation. it will kind of help him hit Offensive Player of the Year here. So that's what I'm liking here for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I like the fact that you went with John Mateer because for me, Mateer is someone that has a chance to really elevate his stock for the NFL draft as well. So we've done a lot here, Mackenzie. I think we kind of close out the show. So one more, go to the early edge on SportsLine to check us out now. We got all kind of cappers, action, and everything to help you out to win money on your leagues and bets. Oh, no problem,
Thanks,
man.
everybody.
Like we go on the fly.